Hi everyone, I'm Ido. I'm a technical designer here at the EditorX team, and today I'm going to show you this cool hover interaction which reveals a card on repeater items. We'll start off with a section with some padding on all sides. Let's apply a grid of 2 rows and 2 columns. Now I would like to adjust my grid, so I will go into advanced mode, and I'm going to first set the left column width to 1087 pixels because I would like my design to be pixel perfect, and then I'm going to convert it to FR, which is a fluid unit, to make my layout responsive on all breakpoints. I'll adjust the height of the rows as well. The first row will be 2.5 VW and the second row 14.3 VW. And that's it for our grid settings. Now we'll add a repeater and place it in the bottom left grid cell. In the dropdown, I'm going to choose the list layout. Now I see that in the inspector panel, each item has a minimum height of 300 pixels. If we remove this height, the item will collapse. So for now, we'll adjust it to 86 pixels. I'll stretch the repeater to fill the entire grid cell. I'm going to remove the background color by setting the background to 0 opacity. And I'm going to add a horizontal line to my item, and then I'm going to stretch it. Let's dock the line to the bottom and remove all margins. Let's also add a container and stretch it. Now we'll apply a grid of 3 columns to the container. From the advanced mode, I'm going to adjust the column's width and row height. Now I'm going to change this container's design. I'm going to make the background transparent. And I'm going to place the text in the left and center grid cell. I'll also change the font size to scale text with a range of 20 to 25 and set the element's width to max content. Then I'm going to add the arrow icon to the right column. We now have our basic layout, so let's design the container that will appear when we hover over the repeater items. We'll add a new container from the Add panel and set its width to 241 pixel and height to 348 pixels, and also set the minimum height to none. We're going to add 6.5% padding on all sides and apply a grid of 2 rows. I'm going to set the top grid row's height to 14.9 VW and the second row to 1.6 VW. I'm going to drag an image to the top grid cell and stretch it. Then I'm going to add some text to the bottom grid cell, and I'm going to set the scale text from 12 to 16 and the width of the text element to max content, and also make sure it is placed in the bottom grid cell. I'll align the text to the left and vertical center. Don't forget to then set the container to fluid and the height to auto to make this container responsive. In the inspector panel, under design, I'll round up the corners by setting the radius to 12 pixels. I'll do the same for the image. We've now built a container that will appear when we hover over the repeater items. I'll attach the hover container to our repeater item. Once I attach it to one item, it will repeat itself on all others. I'll also add the card's positioning by aligning it to the horizontal and vertical center. Now I'll add a right margin of negative 28%. We're now ready to add the hover interaction to our container. In our design, when we hover anywhere inside our item, this should trigger the hover effect. So let's create it. In the inspector, Let's click the Interactions button and add an effect. Choose a custom effect. I'll name it Hover and start designing. In the drop-down menu, we can view the effect's initial and hover states. So on hover, we would like this image to rotate 5 degrees and display. Now that our hover effect is ready, let's also design the initial state. In the drop-down menu, we'll choose Initial State and set our card's container opacity to 0, so when our site loads, our container will not be seen. To make sure the card is always in front of the other elements, I will use a small hack and set the scale to 100.1%. Let's see how it looks. Great! Now I'll add a trigger and choose Hover. The effect that I would like to apply is the one we just created called Hover. Let's preview to check how it looks. That's it. Let's click Done. The only thing that's left is to change the content of each card. Because our opacity is set to 0, the easiest way to reach the elements is from the Layers panel. In each card, I'll go ahead and change the text and image. Let's see it in action. The hover interaction works perfectly and is also responsive. Alright, that's it for today. Thank you for watching and see you next time.